Hello.
Hello. Good morning. How are you?
Y'all, this is going to be a fun one because this is not going to be like a normal podcast, because we were just talking before we got on camera that we actually spent 2 weekends back to back, and it was really sad that we didn't get the third weekend. So there's not going to be any fake to this, like we haven't seen each other in forever, because we have. But, what is really the absolute honor is being able to have friends that are so successful, that share with others. Danielle and I got to, a couple weekends ago, spend some time at CapCon, which is a big passion of hers, not who. Y'all will hear that. But before that, the weekend before, we got to hang out with 64 of our best girlfriends in a 9-bedroom house. We all didn't stay there. I know that would have been fun, even more fun. That could have been a movie. And next year we should do that.
Yeah.
We should take Mandy with us. Mandy's our videographer, by the way. But what I hope you'll find out of this #Accomplished podcast is how awesome Danielle is, but her heart is as big as Texas. She wasn't a natural Texan, but she got here as fast as she could. And I'm sure she's going to tell some of you guys that. But, one of the things I want to just really get into this interview about with Danielle is who inspired you first? What made you want to be the person you are today?
Well, I think everybody has some inspiration in their childhood from family. And certainly my dad is the entrepreneurial one. So when we were kids, he was an auto mechanic, but he also had a chimney sweep business. And we went out after the rain and we plucked earthworms and sold them to the fishermen. We mowed lawns in the neighborhood. We knocked on doors and asked if we could wash their cars. So we learned all of that from him. And later he owned his own mechanic shop. And when he closed that down, he did a reloading business for years, which he just in the last few years has finally sold that and finished doing all the entrepreneurial stuff. He's just a workaholic kind of guy. He's in mid-70s and still doing a part-time job just to keep himself busy. Yeah. So I think many people have an inspiration like that. But also when I was in high school, our dance team person, Stacy Becker, was just an amazing woman to take a whole high school full of girls and take them through pep squad, up on into dance team and cheerleading and all of those things, and be able to inspire them to love other women around them, to feel confident in your performance, to develop friendships. She was the kind of person that would seek you out in the school just to tell you something. And you would think to yourself, wow, I can't believe she even knows who I am. There was a huge, huge group of people and she knew everyone's name. And I always had this special memory of a summer camp that we went to for officers. And she planned out this whole thing. We did a performance there. We competed against other people. And then that night she'd come up with like a spooky story to tell us. And I think this was probably like freshman or sophomore year. And, what kind of person does that on their spare time with a bunch of kids? And this is for me, especially being someone that doesn't have kids. I look at that and be like, whoa, that's a lot of your personal time to give up to somebody like that.
That's huge.
But I think it showed me that you could be anything you want to be because
she
believed in that.
She did that for you?
I don't know if she does. Yeah. I remember talking to her my senior year just before graduation and telling her that of all the people that I'd known in high school, that she was the one that I would remember the most.
Yeah.
And I still see her in some of the pictures in the John Marshall High School Alumni Club on Facebook, which that's kind of fun. Mm-hmm. And she's still there doing that. So it's amazing someone puts that much time into kids that aren't theirs and that she's done that for this many years.
I did not know that. Yeah. How did I not know that?
Yeah.
Man,
pretty cool.
What a special girl. Mm-hmm. Where does she live?
In San Antonio.
We should go see her.
We should.
We should put her on the podcast.
I could message her through the Facebook group.
Oh,
like, hey,
that would be
let's
so
talk about this.
Cool. I love the fact that when you are friends with people, you think you know everything. Mm. That's even with my husband to this day. Mm-hmm. There's something that just pops out. You're like, 36 years and I still didn't know
that.
Dan
has some good one-liners like that. I've heard a few of those myself.
Well, I think that's pretty cool though. I love that. So let's go back to Dad for just a minute. So your brother's in the business. Mm-hmm. You guys obviously have the most successful business that probably of call centers right there at the top, mm-hmm. especially in today's environment where call center has become an ugly word again in our business, that makes both of us sad, I know, because I went around for years campaigning for call centers with especially Manhattan Life and Aetna, very conservative carriers. Here we are again, trying to overcome some of these. I'm careful in the words I use, because of social media and the good and the bad, right? But, there's some that just don't do it right. What do you and David do differently? And what makes you both the duo you are? Obviously, you have the father in common, but what do you see in David that reminds you of your dad? And then also what makes y'all so great?
It's a pure work ethic. So when you have an entrepreneurial parent and my mom also, my parents divorced, we moved to Texas. My dad and sister and stepmom and a bunch of those people are still in Michigan. But, my mom also was a single mom and she worked very hard. And we always were told that we would go to college. There was no other, we didn't even consider anything else an option.
Right.
And so, but when we were kids, he was my partner in crime on all that entrepreneurial stuff. So when mom says, if you want a trampoline, you have to pay for it yourself. We just went out and made the money, and she'll tell a story about that. She didn't want the trampoline because she thought we'd hurt ourselves. So she would tell us we have to come up with $250 ourselves. And we did in 2 months. It took us 2 months to make that money.
That's crazy.
And we always had schemes like that going. We were always scheming up ways that we could go and provide a service to someone and earn money doing it. And so later on in life, we both were very successful at our careers. And then when I came into insurance and I saw that this was the place that I wanted to be, it wasn't long before I invited him to come and do this with me. And we have two very different skill sets. So he's the finance and business major. He's a math whiz. He's a sales guy. He was selling mortgages for years over the phone at Quicken Loans up in Detroit, Rocket Mortgage. That's really hard sales, right? That's the kind of sales that most people, even agents in the business, really can't imagine how difficult to sell like that is.
That's selling.
Yeah,
that's not picking up zero premium.
Yeah,
that's true selling.
Absolutely. And so I had never done any selling before, but I was using the girl next door sales approach, which is very different. And it worked for both of us. We both had our own sales styles. And now we can share those things we learned doing that with the team that we have. But we also divide up the duties. And so I'm the one that's involved in all of the marketing and branding. And I do the human resources part,
which
I don't always love. A lot of the staff management, this sometimes is the bane of my existence. But he does the driving the business forward. And we make all of our major decisions together. So for me, that has worked out well. Now, it's not that we don't sometimes want to punch each other, because there are days we have that too. And I think if you work with someone that's family, of course, you do feel like that sometimes. But at the end of the day, that's still your family. And so we can actually set that aside and move forward with what needs to be done for the business. And where I would have maybe grown the business to say 10 or 12 people and just done that for a long time and just having a smaller agency, Dave's always the one, when you pick a number for a goal, that's putting some zeros on the end of it. And then you realize you're going to be doing this a lot longer than you thought.
Well, I think what's great about y'all's relationship, and I totally relate to this, is that you do see each other's, not so good traits, but you focus on the traits that are amazing. And I think that's what makes a family, right? Yeah. And I think that is what makes y'all so successful. I've been in your operation many times. Y'all have my utmost admiration. I mean, the fact that we get to work together with somebody like you guys is always a humbling thing to me, because one, I love working with people I like. And not everybody gets to do that. I've been very, very blessed in this life to be able to work with people like you and David and know that you can be your transparent self. And I think a lot of that's because y'all are so transparent with each other. So let's talk about the not so good. Let's talk about failures, because you've heard this from me probably a gazillion times, but I always think failures are almost what makes a person before success does. Because I see the most talented people, they've had more failure than success. So speak a little bit about your failures, business failures, whatever you want to discuss with the audience that might help them see that that's just a stepping stone.
Mm. Yeah. And that actually kind of ties into the relationship I have with my brother. So I made a big mistake very early on. It was my first fail. And I think a lot of times people might make a failure like this and just throw their hands up and go and get a job somewhere.
Right.
But somebody that's really going to be a successful entrepreneur isn't going to let one of those things just bat them down. So what happened for me was being a new entrepreneur and going out and trying to sell insurance and learn on my own. I had really no confidence in my ability to do that. So I quickly paired up with 2 other people and started a company with 3 of us, not knowing much about them, but just thinking 3 people new to insurance, all of us are together. And if we put 3 heads together, it's going to be better than 1 and we can make this succeed. And what very quickly happened was that I was the one out there every morning driving to industrial parks, front door cold calling group insurance and making sales and establishing relationships. And then I would come back to the office and find that nobody else had done anything that day. There was a lot of personal issues for one of the partners that prevented him from being at the business very often. And the other one had she had a gig of her own already doing accounting, and she didn't have the time to devote to it. So both good people, just people that weren't willing to put full time into this. And then the other thing that you have to think about when you partner with people, besides just work ethic, is how they look at money and how they handle money. Because I was a person who had negotiated for a part-time job from my former employer so that I could live on $25,000 a year and sink all of my investments in the business back in. So every time I would earn something, I would roll that money back in. So I wanted to sell those policies and leave that money in there. And my thinking was, the more I do that, the sooner I'll get out of this front door cold calling. I'll be able to buy leads because I'll have that revenue in the business. And unfortunately, at the end of every month, they wanted to take that number and split it up 3 ways and take it home, which would have left me forever doing the sales out there. And so I bought out one of them and then I bought out the other one. And in doing that, it probably lost me 2 years of progress. Right. Had I just believed in myself and done it first. But what it did point out to me was if I wanted to partner with someone, I would need somebody that I would know very solidly what their work ethic was like. And the only person that I knew like that was my brother. So I called him and I just said, hey, this is what I found and this is how it goes. In insurance, when you sell, you keep getting paid on those policies for many years or forever. And unlike the type of sales which he was doing, which was a lot bigger dollar figure up front, but there's no trail on that, right? Once the sale is done, it's done. So you're always having to hunt to find new mortgages, new mortgage loans. And he was burnt out by that time. And he was so burnt out that when he finally left, he came down and spent several months just on the couch, like literally recovering from the trauma of the 90 hours a week and them bringing in pizza 3 times a day to keep you in your seat and having such an unhealthy lifestyle and never any time outside or doing things on the weekend for yourself. So he had made a lot of money, but he was really, really burnt out. So at that time, we just took the income that we had in the business and gave ourselves a tiny little salary that we split. And then we went to town selling health insurance. And we tried a few different things in the beginning, but health insurance was the one that we came back to. And the reason that has worked all those years is that we are both willing to put in as many hours as it takes. Now, we don't have kids. So I'd never wanted children. And I have, unless you count furry kids, I have really cute furry kids.
Yes, you do.
But that has allowed us, of course, for many years to put in plenty of evenings and weekends.
And I think there's a value on that. You know, so many people, I think, don't value their time.
Yeah.
You know, when they're really thinking about the investment into their business, you'll hear people give a dollar number. And I'm always like, no. How much time have you put in there? And I've always taught our team and our salespeople and anybody I educate that, you know, you need to put a dollar amount on an hour, just like an attorney does, just like a doctor does, just like any kind of what you would consider a professional. Because when you do that, it makes you realize if you're giving up 10 hours of your time working on a project a week that's absolutely useless, well, you just put in $5,000.
You did.
And that's a lot of money to end up with a zero.
Yeah.
So make sure everything you're doing is worthwhile. So basically, the trampoline idea came back. You brought David down. And instead of going for a trampoline, you guys are like, no, this is big money.
Yeah.
And, so I think it was really a great thing that you put in there about how he was so exhausted and so worn out. What I find out about people in the insurance industry, we go through about the same number of hours, but it's like we see the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Very motivating.
Yes. And we're not near as emotionally exhausted. We all have talked about how we get these burnout moments, but it's usually a 5-day trip. You get all that out of your system and you come back and you're ready to go at it again. It seems like that's kind of been the secret sauce for you guys, is that you have found something that you truly both enjoy doing. Obviously, the money is always great, but I'm still that purpose person, and I know you are too. So when you're working through all this day to day to day, what is the one accomplished dream that you've seen come true?
So for me personally, and I would venture to say that this is the same for my brother, certainly we always wanted to be entrepreneurs and make millions of dollars. That's a given. Most people that are entrepreneurial want to make big money someday. But what the dream that I have had since the beginning was to be the kind of business that senior citizens talk about over the breakfast table. And there's a level of customer service that is lacking in today's world, this generation, that has changed very much.
Let me interrupt right there. That's why these call centers that have gone down the tank have the reputation they have. Mm-hmm. So those of you listening who are out there bad-mouthing call centers, understand that's the differentiator. It literally is about how you serve the clients you bring on and how you sell them. And I think that's the difference maker between those guys and you guys. So I wanted to put that in because I think that's really important for y'all to hear. So I hated to interrupt you, but that was something that just stuck out like a big old white surrender flag.
No, you're absolutely right. Because this year in particular, we have seen a lot of agent backlash against these big call centers. And when they have a model of you spend no more than 30 minutes on the phone selling this person a product, and then that person never speaks to you ever again. And it doesn't matter if you put them in something that doesn't have their doctor in the network or their drugs on the formulary. That kind of Wall Street driven, private investor driven sales model leaves people in a world of hurt.
Yes.
So when people ask me, this year when you finally encouraged me to get out and do some speaking, I've had a number of people ask me why they haven't seen me speaking before.
They've heard.
And the reason you haven't seen me speaking outside of NAHU events is because that's not my audience. Agents are not my audience.
Right.
My audience are baby boomers. And what I want and what my brother and I believe in for our agency that makes us feel accomplished is our business vision, which is be legendary. We want to have a legendary brand, the kind of brand that people find synonymous with service. Not the service where we pick up the phone and tell you what 800 number to call at your insurance company, but the kind of service where if it takes us 2 hours and we still don't have the right answer at Medicare, we hang up and we call back and we get someone else and we try again to get the right answer at Medicare. We try to resolve things way beyond. And this is an investment of millions of dollars in payroll that I could be putting into my pocket every year if I wanted to be like every other business. But we eat, sleep, and breathe what is going to make our clients happy, what will make them sleep good at night, what can we do to surprise them with the level of service. And this comes from me sitting in a driveway in the early days of my business, having come out of a home with a person who was very much in poverty, needing to get their insurance straight, and being moved by that, and then checking my cell phone. And there were at least 5 or 6 messages from clients that were running into issues, just the ordinary problems we have. Medicare didn't switch the coordination of benefits and all their bills got rejected. Their doctor used the wrong code and now Medicare is not covering this. Now the doctor says this isn't covered, this particular Medicare supplement. Somebody needs to call the doctor and explain it's not an Advantage plan. And I remember exactly where I was, where it dawned on me that if we really wanted to be a phenomenal brand someday, we were going to have to solve that problem. And there was going to need to be someone answering that phone so that my clients that I had already invested time and energy in earning their trust weren't getting my voicemail when I'm sitting in another client's house making a new sale. And that was where the client service was born. And every business should have some sort of idea like that. Not customer service may not be the thing you hang your hat on in your business. I've seen some interesting businesses that are being built in Medicare. Zach Munger has the Medicare teacher with Danny Joe. Right. What a great thing to take your teacher background and hang your hat on that and build around that brand that you are a phenomenal educator. And now you've moved your education into the realm to help people in the senior community. You have to find a way that you differentiate that brand, but it has to be the thing that makes you happy. And one of the reasons why we resist and don't even play ball in the idea of selling right now is, number one, we worry what will happen to the client service team, our employees, when a company comes in and buys us out and wants to slash that customer service out because they're going to see that as a drain on profits, when in fact, it improves the persistency. So yes, we are a call center, but our persistency is phenomenal. And the carriers always comment on this. And that's because once they experience the type of legendary service that I instill and train our client service team to be, they don't ever want to be without that. And in fact, sometimes they leave without realizing they're going to lose that. And then they're desperate to come back.
Yes.
That's the kind of accomplishment that matters to me. Yes, I want to make millions of dollars. The money is really nice and makes life easy, right? There's things that are conveniences, but it doesn't buy happiness. Life is 50-50. So if you don't feel good going to sleep at night, knowing what you did for 95-year-old Helen that day, then this is not a business that maybe is the right thing for you. You have to have a heart for these people because there's a whole lot of people out there in the big call centers included that don't care at all. And you have to be someone that cares.
That is dead on. And I think that's what you and I have in common. You know, for me, my business model has always been people will not know how much you care until you share.
Yeah.
And service has always been prime. You know, I've always told everybody that's ever worked for me, you will never take a cussing or a lashing from anybody, but you will always take care of the people. And, you know, we have a customer service unit now that we've always had one, but now we have a customer service unit I'm very proud of because I know that is the difference maker. And I've learned that, you know, my 37 years, this May 12th, has always had a business model with customer service in it. I've never worked anywhere that didn't have that model, even if it was one person in our office taking care of gazillions. You know, I know gazillion's the new word. Y'all, we are by the Air Force Base, and so we are supportive of them, but we do have to listen to their jets every now and then. But, you know, I think, Danielle, the one thing that I really heard in that story, and I just love that, and I think it's what makes all of us want to keep doing this. It is great potential on earnings, right? We can all make good money. But our government, as we have so found, they don't understand Medicare. They don't really understand ACA either. And we've had plenty of governmental people tell us that, especially over the last 6-7 weeks. And I think that that's one of the things that I absolutely love about you personally. But professionally, it just makes me want to go out and fight more for the geriatrics in our country. So I always love to ask another question, which I'm fixing to ask her this. I know fixing is a Texas word. Y'all have all given me some commentary about that. And that's great. That's what keeps y'all listening. I've gotten this new Paula Deen of insurance coming everywhere, but I'm still queen of the bundle. However, what is the dream that is still out there that you personally want? Not Boomer Benefits, but Danielle Kunkle-Roberts wants.
I'm going to save all of the senior dogs. That is my personal mission in life. I want to make enough money to have a ranch somewhere in Wyoming, might be Montana. I love Jackson area. Of course, Tetons are beautiful. I want to live near the mountains, and I want to have enough property where when there's a senior dog that's going to lose its life, they can come and be with me and then I can use my wealth to find homes for them. And that's my personal passion. I care very much about animals. Right now, my life is such that all I can do is donate to that effort,
Right.
Especially with the travel and everything. But eventually, someday, I want that to be a big part. And being that I don't have children, someday when I leave the planet, some worthy animal charity is going to inherit tens of millions of dollars. And that's what my goal is for that. There's a lot of things in life that I could say that make me happy that have to do with money. We can take nice trips, right? We can occasionally treat our family to something that they may not otherwise be able to afford.
Right.
We can pay our homes off and live a debt-free lifestyle. And all of that is great. And I love it. But I'm not somebody that overlooks the opportunity to be generous. And in fact, when you start making really big money, money will not change the way that you are. Sometimes people think that, but in fact, money will make you more of who you are. So if you are generous now, when you may be a new agent out there, maybe you're making $50,000 right now, and millions seems a long way off, but you're generous now. Think about the opportunity that you will have to be as generous when you have so much more.
Right.
It's such a treat to be able to do nice things for the people around you. But it's also, for me, really important that I'm able to give to some of the charities that I really care about most, which for me, of course, have to do with animals. Now, we also are involved in things through your agency, the Ronald McDonald House, and you and I support Beyond the Bag here in Fort Worth. And there's lots of good human charities. Pick your poison on that, folks. You can choose whatever you want. But there's a legacy there that you could leave behind that would mesh with the things you personally care about. And everyone should spend a little bit of time thinking about that, thinking about the good that you can do in the world when you have built this to where the level is more money than you can ever spend. That is so achievable in this industry. And there'll come a point where you're like, now what with the money? Yeah. And think about the good you could do with it.
I love that. And so, there's always a question I ask that I know personally about somebody that I want the audience to hear. The great thing about Danielle is that she has purpose, and she wants everything that she involves herself in to have a purpose. And so, I'd asked her to kind of team up with me at a keynote last year, as she so alluded to. It kind of turned into more as she expected, but that's how I roll. And she knows that. She shouldn't have been that surprised.
I think I learned that by now.
But it ended up being great because I saw somebody that was totally not introverted, because I don't think Danielle's an introvert. She does love her long time, but once y'all are hearing this, once she has something to say, she says it. And so I think the thing that I want to ask you, and I love this about you, is that when you've been out there speaking with the women groups that we've been involved in, the 8% Nation, the NAHU, what have you found out about yourself that was kind of a surprise?
So it is true that I'm an introvert. If there's a party at my house, you will need to leave by 9.
I haven't. I've stayed longer.
And when I go out and do these events, I come home and I need to basically crawl in the closet with my dog for a few days and recover from them. I notice that you're the opposite. You actually gain energy when the more social you are and the more with people, your energy actually waxes and mine wanes.
You stayed up later than me though one night.
I did meet you one night. That was a world record. I can't believe that. A world record. So I was very proud of you and proud of myself that night. What has been surprising for me is just the opportunity to build a little confidence with people and realize that that is something that I can give. So when you go into the speaking, you think that everybody wants to hear one message from you, but a lot of what I have seen in some of these people that I've met along the way and done some coaching with is a lot of doubt about their future and doubt about their ability to do this job and whether or not they're going to make it and if there's room for them in the industry. And I have found that there's an opportunity for me to chat with that person for just a minute and find something that I could pull out of their brain, a thought that they need to work on, or a story they're telling themselves, and give them a different perspective. So when it comes to the speaking, now I feel like, okay, what can I say that will make them realize the story they're telling themselves in their head, and that's a totally optional story for them. And everybody has one, right? I said this at one of our events recently, that 8% Nation last year. I had said, hey, if you've got questions, Robert Page and I were on stage. I was like, come ask us. And so we went to the bar, and then they were coming up all night and they were asking. And the questions weren't like, hey, when did you start Facebook ads? And where do you put I really thought that was going to be those kind of tactical questions. That's not what people wanted to know. What people wanted to know was, how do you get past the early days when you don't have any energy left? And I'm out here and just killing myself to make this happen. And it seems like such a slow go. I had this business before and it failed, and I'm worried that this new business is going to fail. One lady said, I earned $800,000 this year, and she wasn't proud of herself because of this story she had about her parents and her childhood and whether or not she deserved what she had. And I like the opportunity to just say to everybody, hey, listen, like, we're two kids from Detroit. My mom was a bookkeeper. She's more now, or she was before she retired. My dad's an auto mechanic. We didn't come from a bunch of silver spoons, and everybody has an opportunity in this business to make money, but you have to believe in yourself. And so just because now there are a bunch of agents out there doesn't mean that you can't find your little piece of what's going on. There's plenty of business out there. But if you go around thinking every day of your life that you're not going to make it, and you concentrate on all of the competition that you have, instead of finding something within you, a thought that can serve you, that you can move forward with, you're going to miss out on great opportunities because they're right here. They're right for the taking. And I would tell any new agent coming into the business today, plenty of room for you. Plenty of room for you.
Absolutely. Well, what was surprising to me was your surprise of how interesting people found you. I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, because one, you're like everybody else I know that I admire. You're a very humble person. You're confident, but you're humble. And I think that, what you've given in the last, not even year yet, but in the last 9 months has been so admirable, because you're right. The agents aren't your audience, but what these women are gaining and what you're giving back to them is the ultimate service, because it's your time and you don't have to give your time. And I just love that about you. I love that we're friends. It's like I told Richard Cantu in his interview. It's awesome to be able to work with great people, but to consider them your friends and know that you could call on them at any moment, any time in your life is just the most incredible blessing. And I thank you for that, because you are at the top of my list. And, I just hope all of you that are listening that you go back and you listen to this message over and over again. You keep hearing the same common trends. I just wanted to give back. And so when you want to give back, you work harder. And I think generosity is a common trait amongst successful people. I can think of the people that I follow the most that are big household names, and they're some of the most generous people in the world. And then I can look in my circle. And my dad used to tell me this all the time. There will be about 5 people. It's the people you shake hands with, people you hug. So now I got 10 because I hug with both hands. But I'm blessed that way. But he says, those are the people that you're going to be able to call on in the moment of despair, or the moment when you just need somebody to hear you out. And so I'm very thankful for that. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for Boomer Benefits. We've been great partners for a long time. Hope we're great partners for a long time coming. And, it's just been an amazing gift to watch you and David grow this little bitty dream into this big thing now called Boomer Benefits. So we are so glad you guys took a listen today. We have some of the most amazing guests coming up. Be sure and share this with your friends, your family. You never know who might want to get into this business that you're not talking to. But if you're not even in the insurance business, this message from Danielle today could totally inspire that person when they're just having all this doubt. And so we just ask you to keep sharing the YouTube, share the podcast, share everything you can for Queen of the Bundle. We appreciate you as always. And thanks again, and we'll see you on the next #accomplished.